Aloha everyone. Welcome to the public relations training session of District 49 Toastmasters. If you are watching this live or if you're watching this on YouTube and you have no idea what you have clicked upon, let me tell you what Toastmasters International is all about. So we are a non-profit educational organization based out of US, and our objective is to promote public speaking and leadership skills. We do this via a network or community of clubs worldwide. We have roughly more than 14,000 clubs in more than 140 countries. We are a community of more than 270k members. Now, out of this large international community, we have roughly 50 clubs with 750 members here in the state of Hawaii in USA, and that body is administered by District 49. And this public relations training is being conducted by that body. So welcome back again. And this is what we do. This is who we are. My name is Tanishq. I'm currently serving as the public relations manager for our district. Now, earlier, I could have metaphorically said that public relations is so important that you should learn it to control the world. But in 2025, it is the truth. If you really look at what has been happening, Elon Musk acquires this platform called X, and then he helps out Trump with the whole election campaign. And now, finally, you know, the latest I read was that the conflict is going on with Harvard whether they can or cannot admit foreign students. So yes, public relations quite literally determines the future of this world, and that is why you should care about this skill, take up any opportunities that you can, and also participate in such sessions. So thank you for participating, thank you for attending live, or thank you for watching this out on YouTube. Now, this is the fifth session in our series of workshop of public relations training sessions for this term. And in this session, we would be talking about emails, newsletters, and Mailchimps. And to help us with that, let me just introduce to you whom our trainer is going to be today. So our trainer today is going to be Distinguished Toastmaster Julie Murphy. Our trainer, Julie, has served as the District Director in 2022-23 and the District Public Relations Manager in 2020-21 for Founders District based out of California. As Public Relations Manager, she established a consistent, engaging communication rhythm for the district, shining a spotlight on members and clubs. She's also a seasoned Vice President of Public Relations multiple times over. Julie is passionate about all things communication and brings her professional PR expertise to help clubs boost their visibility. By day, she is part of the marketing communications team at one of Orange County's largest automakers, using her skills to drive organizational success. We are really proud to have her as our trainer today. Now, before I invite her, let me share with you what today is going to. Okay, wait, my screen is hanging. Okay, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
All right, awesome. Were you able to hear Julie's complete introduction, or did I got cut off? Yep, you were able to hear that. Awesome. So even though it's 2025 and emails are really, I would say at this point, old school technology, I believe they are still very relevant. A lot of communication still goes on around with email. So today we'll be talking about email marketing, how to go about that. Now, if you have to like email a few people, that's fine. You know already know how to do that via your Gmail. But what do you do when you have like 100 people you want to email? So today that's what we would be touching upon. How do we use tools like Mailchimp to build such email list, or rather help you send out emails to like let's say hundreds of people. Once you have the skill, you can actually start building email lists for your clubs or your businesses or for whatever use case you might desire. Lastly, we'll be also touching upon newsletters. Now, newsletters are not something which are specific to email. You can also do newsletters like physically via magazines. You can also do newsletters on social media and all of that. Newsletters are just curated content which are distributed. But often we see there's this culmination of newsletters with email. Like if you look at it, this is the most common use case that we encounter. So that is why today we'll be talking about that too. So, with that, I hope I was able to convey you what we are going to dabble today with. So, without further ado, with the huge round of applause, let's welcome our trainer, Julie. on the virtual stage.
Thank you. Aloha, everyone. I'm really excited to talk about newsletters because they're the visual aspect of what we can do for our clubs. And I'll show you through one of my clubs, some of the things that we've done. And then we will also get into working through Mailchimp and some of the ways that we can build our newsletter. But to get started, before we dive into creating anything, I want to review some of the key highlights of the Toastmasters brand. We always want to ensure that we're upholding the brand in everything that we do, especially newsletters, social media, anything that's going to be external. We really want to make sure that we're upholding the brand properly. So we're going to take a look at the importance of branding. Why do we talk about branding? Because it creates an image. When you look at these iconic brands, you instantly know what they are. You know what they stand for, and you know what types of products and services you're going to receive. And you have a certain feeling toward each of the brands. That's why it's important that as Toastmasters, we uphold that brand, because now that everything's online, potential members and our members are seeing content online all the time, and we want them to say, oh, I'm proud of my club. My club provides me the professional growth opportunities that I'm looking for. So those are some of the things that to think about and how you're positioning your club and how you are upholding the Toastmasters brand. So this is a quick look at the Toastmasters logo. The white one's not showing up super great, but you can download the logos from the Toastmasters International website. And I will send the presentation after this as well, so that way you don't have to try to write everything down. So I will send the PowerPoint part of it after this. And then, as you can see, this is an example of proper logo usage. Instead of using the district for your club, you would replace your club name. But here's a couple examples of how to properly use the Toastmasters logo. And of course, we want to look at how to not use the logo, because I think sometimes it's easier to remember what not to do. I would say the best course of action is to download the logo from the Toastmasters International website and don't make modifications to it. Use it as is, because we don't want to distort it in any way, because the logo does communicate the professionalism of the Toastmasters brand. Therefore, I would just download the various options that are available on the Toastmasters website and use those to start designing. A quick cheat sheet of the Toastmasters color palette. Once again, we want to make sure that we are following the Toastmasters brand guidelines. So you can see our true maroon, our loyal blue, our cool gray. Of course, black and white are always available. And then we also have our yellow, which can be used as an accent color. Quick example of proper branding that our public relations manager here in Founders District, as you can see, she created two very distinctive posters for the clubs. Each club has their unique personality. I remember when I was public relations manager, I thought, how am I going to be able to create different posters that are well branded? Well, I discovered Canva. It's a great tool that you can use to create the content. You just download it, and then I'll show you how you can upload it to Mailchimp. You can also sync it to Mailchimp if you want. I personally haven't tried that, but you're feel free to explore that as well. Now, before we start designing our newsletter, let's start thinking about what we could put in our newsletter. Because that's always one of the struggles of, well, I have a blank slate, but what do I put in this? So one of the things you can do is include, of course, your members, because you have permission to contact your members, former members, as long as they are okay with being on your list, and previous guests. I do caution you to ensure that your former members and your previous guests, that you have consent to contact them. It's really important as we're uploading our contacts to Mailchimp that we ensure that we have the right to send them communications. And you will have to say that you do have the right. And if you get too many people saying that you did report you to Mailchimp, you would lose that account and all the hard work that you had done. So it's really important to ensure that we're following the proper spam laws and the proper privacy laws. So really keep that in mind as we are reaching out to people. Okay, so now that we know who we can contact, what should we put in our newsletter? Upcoming meeting information, recap of previous meetings with photos. Caveat is ensure that you have permission from your members to share the photos. And if you're highlighting your members and upcoming meeting information, do ensure that you have the permission to include their likeness as well. Member achievements, Toastmasters, professional, personal, and this might be something that you do a call for. One of my clubs, we do a highlights at the end, and I send out the Google form and I say, submit your info. We highlight it during the meeting. It's something that could also be highlighted in our club newsletter if we chose to. But we're a once a month club, so by the time I got around to it next month, all their news would be super old news because we're a fast-paced organization. But if your club meets on a more often basis, then you could obviously look at including their items through the Google form as well, or any other sort of form making items. And key deadlines and reminders. Why? Because it's another touch point for our members as well. Mailchimp is free for up to 1,000 cents per month. So you do have quite a large range of people that you can contact in a single month. But a lot of times I find that if we have 1,000 people on our list, then we probably have a pretty large size club, which is amazing. And I would love to connect with you about your club and how you're able to really do that promotion, because I think that's one of the secret sauces of growing your club. With that, I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting this. I'm going to go ahead and show one of my clubs that I'm the VP of PR for. And I do apologize. It's not a District 49 club, but I'm going to go ahead and share it anyways. So, all right, as you can see, and this was built using a older style of the Mailchimp builder, but you can see, we have our header with the meeting theme. And then we also get into what you're going to see at the meeting. And then, for this, I didn't have registration at that moment, so I just put registration coming soon, but I usually have a button for the registration. And then just a link to our website, so that way people can see, our members can see more information about us and reminded all the cool reasons why they're a member of this club. But of course, there's moments that I am just short on time and, I need to get something out to my members so that way, they know what they have, going on. And so, in that case, one of the things that I would do a lot of times is, I just send, a quick email with, what we have coming up, just a very basic email, but it includes all the information that a person would need to know. And I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. It's a little small. So, as you can see, it's a call to action, reserve your seat. Who our speakers are. Typically, I do list what their titles are. When I created this email, I didn't have what their titles were at that point. Their speech titles, I should say. I do have their education achievements. And then, table topics. This club is very geared toward the learning aspect as a trio member. So, this may look a lot different than what your club would necessarily communicate. And then, of course, how are you going to find me? Come for those that are coming in person, how they need to register. For those, we are a hybrid club, so I do have that Zoom link. And then, as I had mentioned, the high note. I always encourage everyone to sign up for meeting roles. I know as a vice president of education for many clubs, that is always a struggle. I will say this link is not clicked on as near often as our vice president of education would love. And then if any of our members haven't joined our WhatsApp group for whatever reason, then they just have that link there as a reminder. So for this club, I use a combination of the Mailchimp, just your standard email, social media, but it all comes together eventually. And so I think that's one of the great things about your newsletters is what you create for one can be repurposed. For example, for this club, I start with creating my templates social media sized because I know that I'm eventually going to post them on social media. Whether I post them that day or I post them a week later, that can vary over time. So I would recommend, as you're creating your graphics, go into Canva. I like the Instagram size because it plays well with all the other platforms. You get in there, design your base templates that you have to work from. You can every month create some new templates, or it can be a plug and play because at the end of the day, we're super busy people. It can be up to you and your club dynamics. You may not know who your speakers are, especially if you are a weekly club. At the beginning of the month, you likely don't know who your speakers are and what their titles are. If you're a monthly club, you're going to know, ideally, the week of. So every club dynamic is different. So you can use stock photos, you can use photos of the Toastmaster of the day, whatever information you have to work with on a regular basis, you can start from there and you can start saying like, okay, this is the information I have. One of the things you can do is really work with the vice president of education to ideally set the Toastmaster of the day for a rolling month, and then, work with the Toastmaster of the day on what their meeting theme is. Because I think that's one of the key things that, in Toastmasters, we can have a lot of fun with those meeting themes and they can tell us a lot about the dynamics of our club. And that's one of the things to think about as you are preparing your newsletter and what you're going to put in it. I also love to do education highlights because our members are outstanding members. And if somebody missed the meeting, it's a great way to remind the rest of our members how amazing our club is. And, it's a great way to say, what, Tanishq created this. He finished his level 5. Everybody give him a big round of applause. And then people can reach out to him after, because if you miss that meeting, you miss out on some of the fun. So it also creates that fear of missing out, especially if you can do meeting recaps, if you can work with your secretary to get those meeting notes. And easier said than done. I 100% will say easier said than done to be able to take what your secretary's provided and really put that into something that is email newsworthy. But especially if your club takes photos for the best speaker, best evaluator, best table topics, and your members' consent. Keyword, if you have member consent, then those can be incorporated into the newsletter as well. And it just adds that extra dynamic and that extra fun to it. And it's an additional recognition for your members. And especially if you're linking it to your social media sites, you can encourage your members to share. Everything you do can all be interlinked together. And I think that's the beauty of being the vice president of public relations, is one piece of content can be used across so many different platforms because it takes time. I understand it takes a lot of time to go in and create your content. But if you create it once and then you can use it across your different platforms, and then you can also create it once and then if you have 2 or 3 different templates that you can pick from, and then you can cycle through them, every few weeks, every few months, whatever it may be, to just keep it fresh. So you're not always looking that you have the same thing. You can choose different colors, different text layouts, whatever it may be. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to jump into Mailchimp so I can show you how to start designing your newsletter. Now that we've talked about all the cool things that you need to do to prepare, let's go ahead and start jumping into Mailchimp. I created a brand new, fresh Mailchimp account for this. I did upload a few items and set up a few things just so I could show you today. But, this is my Mailchimp home. Yours would look, very similar to this because this is a brand new account. I really wanted to show you how to get started with it. So for campaigns, you can just go ahead and you can do create. And then, I realized it. Okay, yeah, it is showing still. Okay. I would just do, a regular email. You can start designing your email. You can either start with it saying you want to create one from scratch, or you can start with a basic layout. I would say go with the basic layout. There's a few free basic layouts that you can start with. I find that helps me start, laying out my template, dragging things around. The fully designed templates, you can purchase fully designed templates by pulling in. And one of the cool things that Mailchimp does have now, because they have a lot of AI tools, you can have it pull in assets from your website and you can have it create a fully designed template. You do need to upgrade your Mailchimp to use that though. I would say just go ahead, start with the basic layout, do that basic setup, and then from week to week, month to month, you can go ahead and you can just replicate that email, because that's what I do is I have a Mailchimp template and then I just use that as my template and I drag and drop my new content into it. That's how I would recommend, because honestly, yeah, you can get a fully designed one, but I think what we can create is still pretty cool as well. As you can see, it will show you which ones are free and which ones that you would need to upgrade to use. I really like this one that, it's the minimal one. I think it has a really good look because it has our Toastmasters logo. We can do a photo right away. And then it also has the social media sites, pre-set up that we can just link to. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply this one and we're going to start working on it. As you can see, it already has the Toastmasters logo here for us because I did get started on just pulling in a few assets for us. But you can, of course, change it and add something, different if you wanted. So we're just going to go ahead and duplicate this. You could make it bigger. All sorts of cool things that you can do with it. But we're going to go ahead. We're just going to delete this block for now because we're going to go ahead and just keep our Toastmasters logo as we have it. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our first image to it. We're going to go ahead and add the newsletter workshop because I think that's, we're here today talking about newsletters. So we can go ahead and we can add it. As you'll see, the format will go ahead and it will update. You can also make it smaller. So if you wanted to make it smaller, you can add some backgrounds to it. So if we wanted to go ahead and add the true maroon to just make it pop, to add a little bit more accent to it, that's something that you can do as well. This text here, you would need to make sure that you update. So just do newsletter workshop for now. And then you would just go ahead and put your description. One thing that I always do is I like to use these buttons to have a call to action. So I would put maybe reserve your seat. If it had registration. This one, for example, doesn't, but I know a lot of clubs, we use registration to keep out the Zoom bombers that they need to learn how to communicate better, right? I always say they could use a little bit of Toastmasters, but they just come and create havoc for us. You can choose if you want it to be square. Sometimes I go with more of a round look. It seems to, offset other items. Then you can choose what color you want it to be. You could have it be blue, for example. I don't know why it's not changing. But, if we wanted to do, I think this is a button color. Okay, that was just the outside of it. This is our actual button here. So we can make it all sorts of different colors, as we see fit. That is the base of how we get started, but we can go ahead and we can add some more content as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go over here. And if we want to, one of the cool things about Mailchimp is videos. I always struggle with when I send a regular email, I can't embed a video and ensure that it's going to play in everybody's browser. But the beauty of Mailchimp, if you had a sizzle reel from your last meeting, if you had a president's message, anything that you have video-wise, then you can just go ahead and you can add it here. So this, so I always recommend that I like YouTube ones. I find that those are the ones that will play the best, but there are other ways that you can, import your video. So I will caveat when we are building our newsletter, all the assets that we're using, if they have members, if they have member testimonials, if they have anything from our members, do just really make sure that you have permission to feature their likeness, because it's really important that we want to make sure that we have that permission. So we're going to go ahead. So you would just go ahead and you would add your URL here. And then, so we're going to go ahead. I don't know why. Okay, we're going to duplicate our block. So a lot of it should allow us to do a full scale one. So let's go ahead and take a look at our layout. Oh yeah, so this is where we've gone wrong. So one of the things I do is I just kind of look and I'm like, oh, this isn't working. So, let me take a look at my layout. For example, this is one that has multiple. So if you wanted to fill the entire, you would just go ahead and click on your layout and you could drop what it is that you're looking for there. So for example, we're going to go ahead and drop the video. See, as you can see, it would now be full size versus the having it only half. The great thing about half is if you have two speakers or if you have two pieces of content, then you're able to put them side by side and it doesn't make your newsletter quite as long because I find people are only going to read so much. We are vying for people's attention every 5 seconds. I like to say at work, I tell my team, I was like, I like everybody to respond in 5 seconds. It's just kind of my joke, but I feel I work in a fast-paced environment. And so, but I'm always vying for people's attention. I feel, even when we're in meetings, we're always vying for people's attention. There's always those notifications, going off and people are getting sidetracked. So it's really important that our newsletter is engaging. So that's why if you can do, anything visual that you can do, I think is always a great way. And if you're already creating your graphics for social media and posting them on social media, it doesn't take that much longer to go into Mailchimp once you have your template set up. And then you can just go through and you can swap it out from month to month. And you can go ahead and say you have something that's more of a true maroon. You could go ahead and you could make the background for it blue, or you could go with no background if you wanted. There's so many different options that you have in Mailchimp that I encourage you to, get in, start exploring, start developing your content, because that's really one of the best ways that I have found is to, get in the tool. Some of the other things that you can add, the great thing is the social media channels. And so you can either have it so that people can follow or they can share. So if you want people to share the content, so for example, if you don't have social media channels or if you don't have social media channels that you want people to necessarily follow, you're like, I have a strong follower already because it's my members, but you really want them to share content, then you can set it up so that people are sharing your newsletter. And that is just another way to ensure that your content goes even further. You can have it set up so that you have a follow section, and then you could also set it up so that you have a section for people to share. So for example, here's our follow, here's our share. We could add some additional headers so that way people would know a little bit more about the difference. We'll just go ahead and add a heading here. Share. Great. Oops. I promise I can type. Share great news. We'll just add a heading here. Follow for more. We'll say follow for more fun. And you can obviously, brand it to something that's, appropriate for your club. Another thing that you can do is, adding some spacing between them. So I always like to add a divider between them. So that way, I know that we have, just a space between content, because I think it's really important to just break it up, a little bit. So we'll go ahead and we'll add a divider here. And then once again, you can pick the colors from the brand kit. You might want to just do a subtle gray. It's just something that's just a little, little out there. If you want to add, more of a spacing, that's something that you can do as well. And then the cool thing about Mailchimp, the new templates, is you can see how it looks on mobile, which is super important because I find that most of the time people are looking at the content on their phone. We're always on the go. I know I'm always, catching up, as I'm, you know, walking. I probably shouldn't be looking at my phone as I'm walking, but it's always people are like checking their phone, checking their email, as they wait for their next meeting or what have you. They're like, oh, let me pop in and see what's going on in the world. Oh, cool! I have new email. Let me check it out. So those are just some of the ways that you can use your newsletter to further enhance your communications and just further entice people to come to your meeting. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask if anybody has questions.
Awesome. So first of all, let's give a huge round of applause to Julie for that amazing presentation and informing us all about newsletters, email, and doing a technical walkthrough of Mailchimp. I would just like to conclude by saying that now you can be the president of your club, the vice president education, the vice president membership, or vice president of public relations. But I seriously believe that one of these four people or like anyone else in the club should be regularly sending out emails, especially for each meeting. It's fine if you are if you're lacking resources right now, you don't have a newsletter up and running or that complex of a whole thing, but at the very least I believe that you should be sending out a personal email or a personal WhatsApp message if you use that to every of your member. The good thing about Mailchimp is that it automates all of this. So you also have this function on Mailchimp where you can do like hi, and then in the bracket you can write like first name. So when you're
Mhm.
saving the contact, you are saving that okay, first name Tanishq and this is like my email. So when in email you are writing content, you can do that hi in bracket like first name and then the whole content. So when that person receives that email, they would be like, hi Tanishq, we have a meeting coming up, and these are the speakers, this is the agenda. Or let's say if you're asking for people to take up role, something like that. But if you maintain this personal touch for each meeting, I believe it would have a you would be shocked by the effect it could have on your retention rate and even the engagement rate of your members, because it's easy to ignore a group email or a group WhatsApp message, but it's really hard to ignore one that's personal. So I believe this is the reason we wanted to conduct this today. It's a very important tool, starting from such basic things, and then going up to all of those things that Julie suggested, where you explore building an email list, where you try setting up a Mailchimp account and proper newsletter and doing all of those things. So I definitely learned a lot. It's a good idea. I have even in my time as PRM, I have never used that reserve your spot button. I am definitely looking forward to using that button feature in my next email blast. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and now we can take feedback and questions from